All right, everybody, we are about to go live. We are, let's see how much time. Basically 13 minutes to game time, so I'm going to click through. If you're watching, we're actually going to do a quick review of the stocks. We're actually going to start out with a recap of what happened in the first hour and 15 minutes heading into the 11 o'clock game. So in case you're new, this is Battle Stocks live broadcast. It is September 12th. Very excited. You can get in there and start leaving some comments, and we will get started. So what I want to do first, I want to break down the open. And basically, we see the SPY fail at yesterday's high. We actually broke through, had a good, strong bounce. Again, 2 days in a row off of this longer-term support. But we tested yesterday's high and failed. So we're actually seeing a little bit of a bullish price action today. So you still got a couple of seconds, actually, to get your picks in for today. But this here is today's opening price. So as long as we're below today's opening price, it's going to be very difficult to be aggressively long. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and look at some early trading, early price action. We're just going to go in alphabetical order. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to swap that up. I'm actually going to go from how the stocks have changed so that we can actually pull them up and help you guys have your best ideas for the day. So let's see, we have roughly 12 minutes before the live game starts. That should give us plenty of time. Once you have your game pick, upcoming games, jumps over here to live games. We'll click on live games, and we will get started. So starting out with Amazon, we're actually going to zoom this out here. We can see that Amazon so far for today is actually also trading below the opening price. I don't like this bottoming tail to look to the short side unless we start to trade convincingly below this level. But as of right now, long-term bullish uptrend. Let me jump back over to the daily chart there in Amazon. So long-term bullish uptrend, obviously, we held that yesterday. But today we're actually getting a bearish U-turn short-term, which could be perfect for a 15-minute game. So if you're looking at Amazon, clearly below bullish, bearish U-turn, turns to the downside. Same thing with AVGO. I'm going to try and go to the daily chart as much as I can on some of these guys because you need the longer-term perspective. So gap lower after well offered on AVGO. So you can basically call this a failed gap, actually. We actually gapped higher here through the 228 level, and now we're reversing pretty hard. So there's going to be a lot of people caught on the wrong side of this trade. So that's interesting. Very interesting there in Broadcom. Next, we're going to shoot down to Invidious sticking. If you read the morning broadcast, what was pretty interesting today is I like the tech stocks regardless of whether or not they're bullish or bearish because they're giving us plenty of volatility, which, as you can see here, again, 272 to 265, all the way down to 262. So basically a $10 move so far in NVIDIA. How could you get better than that? Whether you're a day trader or a swing trader, you got to be getting in there and taking advantage of the volatility. I like NVIDIA intraday on the short side. Again, long-term picture doesn't matter as much. We're going to jump back over to the spiders really quick, and you can see as long as the spiders are below today's opening price, we did bounce off this long-term support, but right now there is what we call selling order flow. Could be selling momentum, however you want to call it. So actually quite a bit of the list, probably half of the list right now is negative from the open. So we got about 11 minutes into the game start. So you have a monster head start right now. Just looking at my screen, if you can't read it, expand it so you can see the stocks. We have, we're going to jump over to SQ, plenty of bearish selling there. Facebook, I have to go over to, and excuse me for broadcasting this on Facebook, but it is what it is, right? Stock price, can't do anything about it. Looking over at the daily chart, this larger term consolidation, I think it was on September 4th, just over a week ago, we predicted massive volatility coming out of this. We got it to the tune of 175 down to 160. So basically $15 in 4 days. This is actually a pause in this downward momentum, and we're looking for this actually to push down. We actually have a pretty aggressive target on a longer term swing trade, but for the game today and looking at the game intraday, absolutely looking to short it again today, especially if we like it a little bit longer term. What's kind of interesting here is this first 15-minute window. Buyers tried to push the stock back up, failed miserably, and now they're getting it shoved in their face. So kind of imagine like there's a boot on your neck right now. You thought you were getting away. Nope, pushing it back down. So I like that stock on the short side. Apple was one of the picks that we had on the long side today coming into the day, but this is the beauty of playing the 11 o'clock game. You got plenty of time to make awesome picks. So you're actually seeing, again, what we call a bearish U-turn, which is actually where the stock trades above the previous day's high, reverses, and catches everybody on the wrong side. So longer term, Apple is bullish. Short term, certainly today, which is the time frame that we're playing, we're absolutely looking for the short side. Now, what I kind of like over here on the 15-minute chart, inside candle, we call that on the daily chart inside, inside, and down. What we would prefer to have seen is a big red candle here for this 15-minute window, close on the lows, and the same thing here. Did not get that, so we might get a little bit of a bounce here in Apple. So if your picks are in already, you might get that shoved in your face just a little bit, although if you like Apple long, this is where it gets really interesting, because if you like a long-term trade, what you really end up looking to do is you're looking to find a short-term spot to enter in a low-risk way in the direction of your longer time frame. So this actually would have been a signal to be long, but it never traded above there. We might be seeing these two bottoming candles leading to a bottom in Apple here. So if you like Apple and you got your pick in before 10:45 for this game, for the stocks and play game, this very well could be an entry signal long, looking for a test of the high, which is a $4.50 move if this does happen to be the bottom. So that's a pretty interesting setup there. Seeing kind of the same thing in the spiders right now. So again, below the opening price, but if you like it below that level and you're looking for a spot to bid, this actually is what's known as a melted candle in our universe. Could be called a indecision candle, bottoming tail, whatever the heck you want to call it. But we're also forming a swing low here, which is a low with two higher lows on each side. It's going to be interesting to see if the SPY trades above 288.60. If it does, we might start to shift to the other side of the market and start to look for longs, which is what good trading is all about. Then you'd actually go down to, I'll just use Netflix as an example. We'll pull that one into the screen here. You can see Netflix is strong while the rest of the market's weak. That's good relative strength trading. So if you get involved in one of these kind of trades, very, very important to pick stocks that are trading with the market at that moment to get the biggest juice on your trade. But if the market does turn around, you want to look for stocks that are actually strong before the market turns around, because those are the stocks that actually have buying in it. So there you can see the opening price and a bottoming tail here in the stock that's now above the open. So this would be one of the first ones that I would be looking to get long. And it pains some people to see, but Tesla actually has some buying here today too. So going to be very interesting. We have roughly 7 minutes before the game actually starts. We're going to continue going through some of these stocks that are actually having a negative morning and see where we are in the big picture. We are looking at Roku for the next 15-minute window. So again, really solid setup here. Again, bottoming tail, you start to see that actually happen. Now again, bottoming tails are usually more pronounced if they're after a momentum move to the downside. So you know what, I'm going to take that back. It's not really a bottoming tail as much as just an individual candle that couldn't close on the lows. But what we got here is a higher low, higher low. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 candles in a row closing above the open. 4 out of 5 closing above the open. Also 4 candles known as well bid, higher highs, higher lows. We actually did, though, get a bearish U-turn here. But if we keep an eye on the market and we're waiting for the market to turn around, and actually drop that down on the 15 again. Look at that. Swing low, starting to turn positive. So now we would actually turn this list around. So we're going to go to the other side. So that's kind of a really cool live analysis of how to go from longer-term daily chart, wanting to be long coming into the day, looking for a short sale only because the momentum was down at that moment in weak stocks. That's the key, only looking to short weak stocks. But now we could be turning around, so now we actually turn the list to the positive side to see how some of those stocks are turning around. So it's going to be actually really cool to see, did we see price action correctly from both this bottoming tail, trading below the open, but certainly this swing low here. Again, a swing low is where you have a low and 2 higher lows on each side, which shows that price pushed down, and then the next time frame it could not, and we're actually starting to push. So I'm going to start to go into some of these bullish stocks and look at that. I mean, this is actually a perfect trade scenario for what we're talking about here. And actually, there's a trend line above here, so you got to take a look at that. But what I want you to do is pay attention to what we have right here. This is the opening price in CVX. So when the market turns around, you want to go first to these stocks that are above the open and positive. And you can see this right here is an inside candle above the open with the market turning positive. This is actually an entry signal. So 116.80 to 117.50 went up. So that's a 70-cent move before the market turned around. So if the market catches a bid and starts to take off, and we'll see at 11 o'clock when the market does, this is going to be a really fantastic opportunity. But what's interesting is if we zoom out a little bit here, we actually have a resistance level up here. So let's see what that looks like on the daily chart to see if we actually have an overhead profit target. And oh my gosh, look at that. That is the power of knowing your multiple time frames. That's the power of being a real trader. So long term, and obviously long in our in a short-term trader's perspective, it could be 5 weeks. We're talking about August downtrend, but we're gapping higher, bullish relative strength compared to the market, but overhead resistance. So we actually have to watch. This is actually a really big lesson for active traders in the real world, never mind in the battle stocks world. There's definitely good trades to be made, relative strength, relative weak compared to the market. And right now you can't see me talking with my hands, which is actually pretty funny. But this is one of those situations where a lot of traders really get flummoxed, or they don't understand why they didn't make more money. And it really comes down to not every trade is the same. And this is definitely a short-term long based on relative strength intraday, but long-term short heading into resistance. So you would not be aggressively looking to hold this trade. You would be more of a cash flow trade looking at the resistance level. So if we drop this down again to the 15-minute chart, definitely has relative strength to the market, but pushing up into this 117.60, 117.70 resistance, which again is not really a bad trade. That's $1 on a day that the market's pretty mixed just for knowing how to read the charts. That's what's called tape reading. That's what it really means to take your trading to the next level. Still waiting to see if the market catches a bid here. We successfully called this swing low that stopped the push down off of this melted candle. Now, what's interesting is we also need to qualify what that swing low is in perspective to the big picture and in perspective to today's price action. Because between here and here, which is the opening price, this is still a mediocre long, if it's a long at all, because we're below the opening price today. So today's pressure is selling. Until we get above here, you can't have conviction. Longer term, we are definitely trading long, but we're fighting all-time highs. So the upside potential is limited. The downside potential is also limited. So what that means as an active trader is we would only be taking short-term cash flow type trades. That's really the biggest part of this position. So what we need to do now is we've got about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half before the game starts. I just want to get a couple of more trades in. Twitter actually had some news yesterday. Let's actually take a look at that daily chart real quick. We will jump over into everybody's picks right after this. Actually, we called this on the blog this morning. Momentum moved down in Twitter. Not really a lot of clean order flow because we kind of went sideways for most of August. However, consolidation after the short covering rally did not fill the gap. Nice momentum push down. 3 days of pausing. I like to call it a pause because you start getting into bull flags and bear flags. You start to confuse the heck out of everybody. This is not a bear flag. It's 3 days or 4 days worth of a down move. That's not really a flag. A flag is during a trend. 2 or 3 days is not a trend unless you happen to be looking at that. Maybe on the hourly chart where this is a little bit more pronounced, but it's absolutely a short, especially because we could not get above this level and stay there. So coming into the day in Twitter and now certainly intraday, definitely be looking at Twitter on the short side. So if you got that pick in, we're about to start in a minute. So I'm just going to walk everybody through. If you happen to be logged into the game or if you're looking at the game for the first time, you would actually log in. You get taken right to the dashboard, which is kind of cool. So you'll see upcoming games here, which you can see we have 21 seconds till this game starts. And then we will see the live game jump over here, and we will start to do the play-by-play on some of your live picks to see who is actually going to end up in the money today and put into that sweepstakes. So kind of cool. We are 5 seconds into it. Let's actually take a look and see what the SPY is doing, if it bounced at all. Inside candle in the SPY now. So we got inside candle still below the opening price. If it pushes down, we can get a lot of people squeezed on the wrong side. So now we just jumped over. Now we're going to start the game and start to see where the picks come in. So you can see where my picks are. We're immediately 3 out of 5. You can see the P&L here. I am short Facebook, long Apple. I am short, which means I sold Netflix, went long in Goldman Sachs, and I went long in Twitter. But we're going to focus on your picks right now, and I'm going to quickly go through. You can see that I am down here in 35th place, picking up the rear. Well, that's all right. Let's actually see what Zerfit is doing here. Loaded the boat here on the CVX short. So let's actually take a look at that CVX short. That actually looks pretty good. Remember what we said here. We had upside, basically upside potential that was limited. Now, I want to walk through this trade on the daily chart to show you. If I'm not mistaken, I think that this chart on the daily chart was a sideways mess. And you can actually see here we just bounced into resistance. So, again, this is actually really kind of cool in two different ways that it's playing out. They actually loaded up on the short and got the fill at the time the game started, which is really cool because we actually just called the fact that that stock was petering out, no pun intended because that's my name, but petering out on the long side with less profit potential, even though it gapped higher today. So the fact that the fill is when the game starts is a huge advantage for this short sale. You can see the allocation of their buying power here, almost 3,000 shares to the short. So if that short does end up being the top in that trade, that's going to be an awesome, awesome trade there. Let's actually go to see Mark. What's Mark? Oh, Mark's actually positive P&L everywhere. Long Tesla. Oh, my friend in Texas is not going to like that pick. Let's see. Long loaded the boat, 3,368 shares at a 285 pick. So let's actually see what Tesla's doing here. And, of course, I'm going to zoom it down into the shorter time frames. We want to see what it's doing compared to the opening price. So what do we got here in Tesla? We actually have an inside candle above yesterday's high in Tesla, looking to break the 3-day high. This could actually be a vicious move to the upside. So, Mark, that's actually a pretty good pick there, loading the boat, and you can see the P&L is just piling on right now. That could be an awesome, awesome pick. I'm actually going to look at, let's see, we got nothing big in the other one, so we're going to keep an eye on that Tesla pick. Let's actually go to Joe here. Let's see what Joe's got. Joe is also long Tesla, 700 shares, long BIDU, but mostly loaded up on Tesla. Actually, no, BIDU is actually the bigger pick. Let's actually take a look, and this Tesla trade could explode. Mark's picks could actually really all be weighted. BIDU long, actually, you know what? This is another interesting one. Clearly intraday today and clearly over the last 5 days, absolutely nothing to do here. The stock is like stuck nowhere, longer term overhead resistance. But, and this is the best part of playing these live games, you got the fill when the game started. If you pick the bottom in this stock at multiple day resistance and this thing bounces, who cares what's going on in a longer time frame? Now, coming into the day, you might pick that, but it's 11 o'clock. 11:03 at this point. If you nailed the bottom, you got all this profit potential in BIDU. So really good example there of longer term nothing, but you're getting the fill with your heavier shares at that price. Let's go over and see what Alicia is doing. Let's see. Oh my gosh, almost 12,000 shares loaded up in Twitter and Roku on the long side. So let's actually take a look at those two. Twitter, we kind of took a look at pre-market, might be getting the bottom. Let's see if there's any longer term support here in Twitter. I like Twitter on the short side, so Alicia is actually fighting me on this one, trying to pick a bottom here. I think long-term, whether long-term is the next 15 minutes or not, or as a swing trade, I like it on the short side, but we are trading the day trade, and she might have nailed the bottom there, and that would be kind of interesting with the amount of shares. I mean, Alicia, look at the almost 12,000 shares. If this thing turns around, it could explode. 6,100 shares. And we talked about this often in some of the videos. If you've been on the YouTube channel, even on the blog post, make sure if you want to add to your bankroll and move from piker up into different stages and you want to rank like Alicia's doing right now, you absolutely need to be allocating the right amount of shares to the right trades. And if you like something, you pile your allocation into that, because one trade like that could make or break your entire game and keep you up there. So we're going to take a look at Roku, and then we're going to take a look and see what some other traders are doing there in the top 5. Oh, awesome. Actually, very interesting here in Roku. Let's actually go out to the longer time frame first, though. What we're going to do first is clearly Roku longer term, so I do like that. This actually kind of brings into play what we were talking about before, that if you like the long coming into today, whether it's on the 15-minute chart, the daily chart, as the stock starts to push down, you should only be looking for a spot to get long if you like the long. So even those other stocks that were pushing lower today, the better trade is still in the longer term direction of price action. So what I'm basically meaning by that is this push down and consolidation, this push down and ultimately what could be called a bottoming tail is leading to this move up. So you know what's interesting here is you have a 2-day high roughly around 71.50, give or take a couple pennies. It kind of pushed through there but failed, but the real number is 71.50. So you actually have over $2 profit potential if you nailed the bottom with heavy share size here, Alicia. So you could really be vaulting to the top right now and staying there just with those 2 picks. Mark actually dropped down to third, so it looks like one of those trades pushed down. Let's actually take a look at, looks like Geralt, specialist. So he's actually been trading very well, ton of experience points. That's important, by the way. Loaded up here in Roku as well, might have nailed the bottom. And also SQ Square long with 4,049 shares. Let's actually take a look at the multiple charts of Square here. First, I want to take a look at the daily chart before I comment on what is right now the short-term trade. So longer term, actually, if you remember this morning, we actually talked that it's kind of stuck between this window. However, what is kind of interesting and definitely something that active traders can do, and probably some of the most significant levels that you can look at, is yesterday's high and yesterday's low. So what we actually have here is a bid or support at yesterday's low and resistance at yesterday's high. You cannot go wrong if you like a stock long bidding at yesterday's low, and that's kind of actually what we have going on here. So whether the stock bounces or not, you got 1, 2, 3 times the stock failed to go through yesterday's low. That is short-term buyers stepping back into the longer-term direction of the last 3 or 4 weeks. So actually a good pick here by Geralt, and actually kind of a lucky fill at yesterday's low and loading the buying power right around that 88.90 level, which is kind of cool. I mean, you got a really good feel there. If this is the bottom, even just a minimum retest of today's high, looking up here at 90, let's call it 92.50 just for argument's sake, you're looking at $3.50 to the upside if you nailed the bottom. So what that really comes down to is that is a really good risk reward, which is a little bit different from profit potential. So we got to take that out of the equation. You are below, and I'm actually going to just bring this up here, you're below the opening price. So best case scenario is if you got this entry up here above today's opening price in the direction of this longer term move, that would be awesome. So when you have a scale of great and everything that moves away from great, you have a little bit less probability for follow through. But what's really important here is you got the bid at the previous day's low, so risk was lower if it got below that level. Reward is back to today's high. A good trade because it's a longer-term long, but if it was above this level, that would be an awesome trade. So remember, setting up probabilities is very, very different than setting up risk-reward. This to here is risk-reward. Up here in the direction of the longer term is setting up the probability. So probability on the trade is a little bit lower because we're still below today's opening price. Let's jump over to the game, see if anything has changed. Ooh, Geralt actually hopped into the lead. Let's see what's actually produced. Look at that. 5 picks, 5 positive for Hutley. Wow. Currently, actually just jumped down to third, which means I picked up, it actually changed while I clicked it. But long in MU not working out. But this is really where the power of the better picks you make over your portfolio, the easier it will be for you to move from apprentice all the way up to master, increase your experience points, and add on to your bankroll. But I want to jump over here. Let's actually, Mark actually jumped down to 7th place. I want to take a look at Geralt because his picks are just flying right now. Again, almost 8,800 shares between these 2 picks. It looks like some of the shorts, actually Tesla's turning around. Let's see what's going on at Tesla. And I'm actually going to go back to the market in 1 second. Tesla still looks like a long, did not explode like we expected it to. So we're getting a little bit of topping tails here. But I want to go over to the market because that has a lot to do with what we were talking about before. So again, if we talk about the market and probabilities again, we would like to see this longer term price action be above today's action, because that would mean today's buying is in sync with the longer-term buying, but we're not actually seeing that right now. So although we got to swing low here, today, so far, the sellers are still in charge. So we're actually going to sort this list back to the selling. And by the way, this is one of the biggest things to do as an active trader. Never go into the day being like, that's it, I'm done for the day. I don't have to. You have to pay attention. It's like driving a car. Every situation is not the same. You get on the road yesterday and you're flying like price action was yesterday. That's not today. So if the road was open yesterday and you took your foot off the gas and you just fly off the brake and you're just flying, fine. That was yesterday. You got to pay attention to what's on the road today. So yesterday was put the car in cruise control for the first all the way up till 12 o'clock yesterday, and then kind of choppy. Today it's not the same. It's the same I-95, but not the same price action. That's what it means to be a good trader. So we're going to hop on. Oh, my gosh, Mark just jumped back to the top. And all 5 of Mark's positions are now profitable, which is kind of good. What's interesting now is we actually have now seen a few traders this morning in Roku Square and also Twitter. And these guys are kind of hogging the top 5. I'm actually going to go over to Joe here and actually it changed while I was clicking it. Moving quick. Joe Gauk Rogers. Maybe he's a Aaron Rodgers fan. Let's see. 555 shares in Netflix on the long side. We said that was kind of struggling. 1,200 shares. Oh, it's actually, what's interesting here is great job by Joe picking trades on both sides of the market, and all 5 of their minimum picks are profitable right now. I'm going to hop over to Home Depot real quick. As we said, both long-term and short-term. I'm going to take a look at short-term. So before we get to the long-term, Home Depot, nice push down. Opening price is up here. So again, intraday price action, which is what we're looking at as active traders, below the opening price, pushed through the previous day's high and failed. So that is learning how to read the tape. Push through, failed, below the opening price. Consolidation, we've been talking about it a couple of times. Bottoming tail could not push it back above the opening price, led to an inside day, and now we're pushing down. So inside candle, not inside day, inside 15-minute candle, now pushing down. We would fully expect this, especially now because we're also below yesterday's low. So what's kind of interesting now is I'm going to take this and put it over here before we jump into the longer-term picture. But this is what we're looking at right now. We're now looking at it failed at yesterday's high. Remember we said before that yesterday's high, yesterday's low, some big levels. Now we're pushing through and fighting once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to get below yesterday's low. We can't do it. Awesome real-world price action right there. That's why the stock that we called out before, bidding at the previous day low, is a good risk-reward perspective because long-term, bullish, good reward potential bidding where buyers yesterday stopped it. So 4 times in a row. So if you're short the stock right now, buyers step back in and you're about to get it shoved in your face. At the very least, we have 3 minutes for that bad boy to follow through to the downside. So let's see if anybody else is popping up in here. Let's take a look and see what Scott's going on here at number 9. Oh, loaded up. I like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 picks. That shows guts, Scott. That is a man. Never mind this 5-pick minimum. Get in there. If you like them, go get them. Anything in here? Let's take a look at BIDU. BIDU on the long side. By the way, if you're not an experienced trader, short means you sold the stock expecting it to go lower. But let's take a look at BABA and BIDU, which seem to be the 2 bigger winners here for Scott. We have roughly 90 seconds for your P&L to play out. Actually, I want to take a look at the daily chart here before we form an opinion. So actually, very interesting play here. Scott picked BABA long based on where it was between 10 o'clock and 10:45, the start of the day, which is actually right now, if you look into a lot of what we're talking about, this is actually now well bid. Long term, again, over the last 10 days, definitely a short sale. Yesterday, we formed a bullish U-turn, which again means traded below yesterday's price, bounced back above. So went below this action, pulled back up, and now we're well bid trading above the open. So this could end up being a really solid bounce here for Scott and BABA. Let's take, really vicious bounce, actually. I bet you're wishing you had more stock there now. And BIDU as well. So let's go back to the SPY. I'm willing to bet that the SPY, look at that. How significant is that now? So we're actually going to take a look at some of those stocks heading into the end of the day. But here's the point. Remember what we said, below the opening price, okay for a long, better if it gets above here. So now we're going to pay attention above the 2-day high. Can it stay above the opening price? Bottoming tail. Remember what we said about 10 minutes ago. Swing low. Low, lower low, higher low. We got a low with 2 highs on each side, 2 higher lows. That caused the bottom. Inside candle, bam, pushing higher. All those shorts getting shoved in your face. So let's see how the P&L, Joe vaulting to the top, and the game is over. I don't know about you. That was freaking awesome. Let's see how the final tallies come up. And actually what's going to pull up now, it will drop in my personal P&L, and you can actually see my best picks. I came in 41st. Not great. I'm still a piker. Big deal, right? That's the whole point in practicing. And also, that's why there's new games every freaking 10 minutes. But you can see here, Twitter actually had $2,100 P&L. By the way, if you're in the game, this should have popped up for you as well. And it'll pop up every game. It'll actually show you how to find it after every game. Apple long as well. And actually, if you remember, my Twitter call coming into the day I liked it actually on the short side. Goldman Sachs actually was long, 870 shares. But this is the key here, loading the boat or getting heavier on positions that you like. If you have played previous games and you're not sure where you were in the standings, you just go back up here to the top to history, and you will be able to see what you've done in some previous games. Let's see, DB's typing in the top 50, have green P&L. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. So we got plenty of people getting more coins, even though they lost on the pick, which is kind of cool. And yeah, DB, I agree, absolutely, 1,000,000%. I wish that's how it happened in real trading. So this is Pete signing off. Basically a 31-minute broadcast. We'll send the video out to everybody before. Hope you had fun. As soon as the video is done, I sent it out before. Send it out later when it's all done, said and done. It will stay on the Facebook page. You can watch the replay there anytime you want. We'll also post it on over to YouTube and on the blog. And I hope to see you soon. That was just absolutely awesome. Thanks a lot, everybody. Speak to you soon.